At 2:34 a.m. on November 15, 1943, Sergeant Thomas Brennan crouched in the jungle on Bougainville Island, watching 200 Japanese soldiers march single file along a trail 60 yards below his position, while his patrol of 12 Marines waited in ambush positions with orders to observe enemy movements and avoid contact. 24 years old, construction worker from Boston, 7 months in combat. The Japanese column stretched 300 yards along the trail. Infantry with rifles and light machine guns, ammunition bearers carrying boxes of grenades and belts of ammunition, officers with swords and pistols. They were moving west toward the American beachhead at Empress Augusta Bay, 3 miles away. Standard Japanese tactics: night infiltration, surprise attack at dawn, overrun American positions before defenders could organize. Brennan's patrol had been sent out at dusk to observe Japanese movements and report enemy positions to battalion headquarters. The orders were explicit: reconnaissance only, no engagement, radio positions back to command, return to friendly lines before dawn. Brennan had followed those orders for 4 hours. His patrol had moved through the jungle in silence, located this trail, set up observation positions, and counted Japanese forces moving past. 3 separate columns so far: 80 men at 11:17 p.m., 150 men at 1:03 a.m., now 200 men at 2:34 a.m. Total, 430 Japanese soldiers moving toward the American beachhead. Brennan had radioed the information to battalion after each column passed. Battalion had acknowledged the reports and repeated, observe only, do not engage, return before dawn. Brennan understood the logic. 12 Marines against 430 Japanese was suicide. The patrol's mission was intelligence gathering, not combat. Engage the enemy, and the patrol would be wiped out. The information they had already provided was valuable. Battalion could prepare defenses based on Brennan's reports. The patrol had accomplished its mission. Time to withdraw. But Brennan calculated probabilities as he watched the Japanese column march past. If the patrol withdrew now and returned to friendly lines, battalion would have 4 hours to prepare defenses before the Japanese attacked at dawn. 4 hours to reposition units, register artillery, set up machine guns, prepare for the assault. If you want to see how a Marine sergeant with 12 men violated orders and launched a night attack against 200 Japanese soldiers to disrupt an enemy assault that would have hit unprepared American positions at dawn, hit that subscribe button. We're telling the stories about Marines who were outnumbered 10-1 and attacked anyway because waiting to be overrun was not an acceptable option. Thomas Brennan had worked construction in Boston from age 16 to 22, building houses and commercial buildings. Heavy labor, framing, roofing, concrete work. Brennan learned to work fast under pressure. Construction deadlines were tight. Delays cost money. Contractors expected crews to adapt, improvise, solve problems without supervision. That mindset, fast decision-making, aggressive problem-solving, working without explicit orders, would define Brennan's approach to combat. Brennan enlisted in the Marine Corps in March 1942, 4 months after Pearl Harbor. He was 22 years old, single, no dependents. The recruiter asked if he could handle physical work. Brennan said he had been carrying 80-pound bags of concrete since age 16. The recruiter signed him up for infantry. Brennan completed recruit training at Parris Island, South Carolina in June 1942. He qualified as expert rifleman with the M1903 Springfield rifle. The Marine Corps promoted him to private first class and sent him to advanced infantry training at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Brennan trained in small unit tactics, patrolling, ambush techniques, jungle warfare. The Pacific War required different skills than the European War. Dense jungle, limited visibility, close-range combat, night operations. The Japanese fought with infiltration tactics, small units moving through jungle at night, attacking from unexpected directions, using terrain and darkness for concealment. American forces had to adapt. Brennan learned to move silently through vegetation, navigate without landmarks, identify sounds in darkness, set up hasty ambushes. He excelled at patrolling. His construction background had taught him spatial reasoning, understanding how structures fit together, how forces distributed through materials. Brennan applied that to terrain analysis, understanding how valleys channeled movement, how ridgelines provided observation, how trail networks connected positions. The Marine Corps promoted Brennan to corporal in September 1942 and assigned him to the 3rd Marine Division as a squad leader. The division deployed to New Zealand in December 1942 for final training before combat operations. Brennan's regiment, the 3rd Marines, conducted amphibious landing rehearsals and jungle warfare exercises. On November 1, 1943, the 3rd Marine Division landed on Bougainville Island in the Solomon Islands. The objective: seize a beachhead at Empress Augusta Bay, establish a defensive perimeter, and build airfields to support Allied air operations against the major Japanese base at Rabaul, 200 miles to the northwest. The Marines landed against moderate Japanese resistance. They secured the beachhead by November 2nd and began expanding the perimeter inland. Japanese forces on Bougainville numbered approximately 40,000 troops under the command of Lieutenant General Harukichi Hyakutake. The Japanese planned to counterattack the American beachhead, destroy the marine perimeter, and drive the Americans back into the sea. Japanese attacks began on November 3rd, probing attacks, small unit infiltrations, night raids. The Marines repulsed these attacks but took steady casualties. By November 14th, the Marines had been ashore for 2 weeks and held a perimeter approximately 6 miles wide and 3 miles deep. The perimeter was not continuous. The jungle was too dense. The Marines held key terrain features, ridges, trails, river crossings, with strong points connected by patrols. Japanese forces exploited the gaps, infiltrating through the jungle and attacking American positions from unexpected directions. The Marines needed better intelligence on Japanese movements. Where were the Japanese concentrating? What routes were they using? When would major attacks come? The division sent out reconnaissance patrols every night to observe Japanese activity and report enemy positions. Brennan led one of those patrols. He had been promoted to sergeant on November 8th after his squad leader was killed during a Japanese mortar attack. Brennan now commanded a 12-man patrol, himself, a corporal as second-in-command, and 10 privates and PFCs. On November 14th at 6:30 p.m., Brennan received his patrol orders from the company commander. Mission: move west into the jungle, locate Japanese forces moving toward the American perimeter, observe their routes and strength, radio reports to battalion, return to friendly lines before dawn. The commander emphasized no engagement unless absolutely necessary. The patrol's value was intelligence, not combat. Engage the enemy, and the patrol might be destroyed. The intelligence would be lost. Brennan acknowledged the orders and briefed his patrol. The Marines checked weapons, loaded ammunition, prepared radio equipment. At 7:15 p.m., Brennan led his patrol through the marine perimeter into the jungle. The patrol moved in single file with 10-yard intervals between men. Brennan led. The corporal, James Rivera, was at the rear. 2 Marines in the middle carried the SCR-300 radio. Movement was slow in the darkness. The jungle floor was covered with roots, vines, fallen branches. Visibility was near zero. Brennan navigated by compass and pace count, dead reckoning through terrain he had studied on maps during the afternoon. At 8:47 p.m., Brennan's patrol reached a trail junction 2 miles west of the American perimeter. Brennan positioned his patrol in a defensive circle 60 yards off the trail and settled in to observe. At 9:33 p.m., the patrol heard movement from the west. Japanese voices, equipment rattling, boats on the trail. Brennan signaled his men to remain silent and concealed. At 9:41 p.m., the first Japanese soldiers appeared on the trail. They were moving in single file, maintaining 5-yard intervals. Brennan counted 30 men, 40, 50, 60. The column continued past. Final count 80 men, all carrying rifles, packs, and equipment. Infantry, moving east toward the American beachhead. The column passed and disappeared into the jungle. Brennan waited 10 minutes to ensure the column had moved out of hearing range. Then radioed battalion. Contact report. 80 enemy infantry observed moving east on trail at grid coordinates 842-391. Column heading toward perimeter. No contact made. Continuing observation. Battalion acknowledged. Understood. continue observation, avoid contact, report additional sightings. At 11:17 p.m., Brennan heard more movement. Another Japanese column, this one larger. Brennan counted 150 men. Same formation, same direction. He radioed battalion with updated numbers. At 1:03 a.m., a third column appeared, 200 men. Brennan radioed again. Battalion's response was terse. Understood. 3 columns totaling 430 enemy. Return to friendly lines immediately. Enemy strength too high for your patrol to remain in area. Brennan acknowledged, but did not immediately withdraw. The third column was still passing. He wanted to see the entire force before moving. At 1:28 a.m., the column's tail passed. Brennan counted 2 officers at the rear, identifiable by their swords. Officers at the rear meant this was the last element. No more forces following. Brennan signaled his patrol to prepare to move. Then he heard something that changed his calculation. One of the Japanese officers at the rear of the column was speaking loudly to another officer. Brennan did not speak Japanese, but one of his Marines, Private First Class Kenneth Tanaka, was a Nisei, second-generation Japanese-American. Tanaka spoke Japanese fluently. Brennan called Tanaka forward and whispered, "What are they saying?" Tanaka listened for 30 seconds, then whispered back, "They're discussing the attack plan. Dawn assault on the American positions. Artillery preparation at 5 a.m. Infantry assault at 5:30 a.m. They're coordinating with 2 other columns for simultaneous attack from 3 directions." Brennan checked his watch. 1:31 a.m. Dawn was at approximately 6 a.m. The Japanese artillery would open fire in 3.5 hours. Infantry assault would follow 30 minutes later. Brennan did quick math. His patrol was 2 miles from friendly lines. Movement through jungle at night, 1 mile per hour. Arriving at friendly lines at approximately 3:30 a.m. Battalion would have 90 minutes to prepare defenses before Japanese artillery opened fire. Not enough time. Brennan had seen American units surprised by Japanese attacks. The results were always bad. Positions overrun, Marines killed in their foxholes, lines broken, chaos. 90 minutes was not enough time to reposition artillery, move reserves, strengthen positions. The Japanese assault would hit unprepared defenses. Casualties would be high. Brennan looked at the Japanese column moving along the trail below his position. 200 men stretched over 300 yards, officers at the rear, no flank security. The Japanese were confident. They did not expect American patrols this deep in their territory. They were not prepared for an attack. Brennan calculated. His patrol, 12 Marines with rifles, 2 Browning automatic rifles, grenades. Japanese column, 200 men in a narrow column on a trail, no flank security, officers bunched at the rear. If Brennan's patrol attacked from the flank with surprise, they could inflict significant casualties in the first 30 seconds. Rifle fire into the column, grenades into concentrations, then immediate withdrawal before the Japanese could organize. The attack would kill some Japanese, wound others, but most importantly would disrupt the column. The Japanese would have to stop, reorganize, treat casualties, establish security. That would delay their movement. The delay would push back the timeline for the dawn assault. Instead of attacking at 5:30 a.m., the Japanese might not be ready until 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. That delay would give American forces time to prepare. Brennan also calculated risks. The attack would expose his patrol to counterfire. Japanese casualties, unknown, possibly 20 to 40 killed or wounded in the initial ambush. American casualties, possibly 2 to 4 Marines killed or wounded before the patrol could break contact and escape. Kill 20 to 40 Japanese and delay their assault by 2 hours at the cost of 2 to 4 Marine casualties. But the attack violated orders. Battalion had explicitly ordered Brennan to avoid contact and return immediately. Attacking the Japanese column was the opposite of those orders. Brennan made his decision at 1:34 a.m. He would attack. He called his corporal, Rivera, forward and briefed the plan in whispers. Rivera's reaction, "Sarge, we're ordered to avoid contact. Battalion said return immediately." Brennan, "Battalion doesn't know what we know. The Japanese are attacking at dawn. If we don't delay them, they'll hit our lines before we're ready." Rivera, "We're 12 men. They're 200. Brennan, "We have surprise. We hit them hard, Kill as many as we can in 30 seconds, then we run. The attack will delay their advance by hours. That's worth the risk. Rivera, and if battalion court-martials you for violating orders? Brennan, then they court-martial me. But the attack gets delayed, and Marines don't die in their foxholes. I'll take that trade. Rivera considered this for 5 seconds, then nodded. I'm with you. Brennan called the rest of the patrol together and briefed the attack plan. Group 1, 6 Marines with Brennan, positioned on the right flank of the trail. Group 2, 6 Marines with Rivera, positioned on the left flank. Both groups would move into position while the Japanese column was still passing. When the entire column had passed and the 2 officers at the rear were directly between the 2 Marine groups, Brennan would initiate the ambush with a grenade. Both groups would then open fire into the column with rifles and BARs for 30 seconds, throw remaining grenades, then withdraw west into the jungle for 200 yards before turning south and moving toward friendly lines. Questions. Private First Class Tanaka raised his hand. Sarge, what if the Japanese pursue? Brennan, they won't. We'll hit them hard enough that they'll stop to reorganize. By the time they're ready to pursue, we'll be 400 yards away and moving through jungle they can't navigate in darkness. Another Marine, what do we tell battalion? Brennan, nothing until we're clear. Radio silence during the attack. After we break contact, we'll report that we were compromised and had to fight our way out. At 1:38 a.m., Brennan moved Group 1 into position on the right flank of the trail, 40 yards from where the Japanese column was passing. Rivera moved Group 2 to the left flank. Both groups were positioned in heavy vegetation with good concealment. The Japanese column continued marching past, unaware of the Marines 40 yards away on both flanks. At 1:47 a.m., the rear of the column approached Brennan's position. The 2 Japanese officers were talking, their voices clear in the night silence. Brennan could see them now, both carrying swords, one carrying a map case, probably company commanders coordinating the attack plan. High-value targets. At 1:49 a.m., the 2 officers were directly between Brennan's group and Rivera's group. Brennan pulled the pin on a fragmentation grenade, counted 2 seconds, and threw it toward the officers. The grenade arced through the air and landed between the 2 officers. They saw it, started to react. The grenade exploded at 1:49 a.m. and 7 seconds. Both officers were killed instantly. Shrapnel hit 6 nearby Japanese soldiers. Brennan and his group opened fire immediately. 6 Marines firing M1 Garands and 2 BARs into the Japanese column at 40 yards. Devastating. Japanese soldiers dropped. The column tried to scatter, but there was nowhere to go. The trail was narrow, flanked by dense jungle. Rivera's group opened fire from the opposite flank. Crossfire. The Japanese were caught in a kill zone. Some Japanese soldiers returned fire blindly into the jungle. Most dropped to the ground or tried to run. Brennan counted to 30, then threw his remaining 2 grenades into the column. Rivera's group did the same. 12 grenades exploded along 100 yards of trail. At 1:49 a.m. and 38 seconds, Brennan gave the signal to withdraw. Group 1 broke contact and moved west into the jungle. Rivera's Group 2 did the same. Both groups moved fast, crashing through vegetation. Stealth was no longer a priority. Speed was everything. Behind them, the Japanese column was in chaos. Screaming wounded, officers shouting orders, rifle fire into the jungle in all directions. At 1:52 a.m., Brennan's group had moved 200 yards west. He turned the patrol south and continued moving. Rivera's group linked up with Brennan's group at 1:57 a.m. The combined patrol continued south, paralleling the trail they had ambushed but staying 100 yards off it in heavy jungle. At 2:14 a.m., Brennan stopped the patrol and conducted a head count. All 12 Marines present, 2 wounded. 1 Marine had taken a grazing wound to the left arm from Japanese return fire. Another had twisted his ankle during the withdrawal. Both could walk. 0 killed. Brennan was surprised. He had expected casualties. The Japanese had returned fire during the ambush. Hundreds of rounds fired blindly into the jungle, but none had hit Marines except for 1 grazing wound. Luck. Brennan radioed battalion at 2:19 a.m. Patrol compromised by enemy forces. Engaged in firefight. All personnel accounted for. 2 wounded minor. Withdrawing to friendly lines. Estimate arrival, 4:30 a.m. Battalion responded, understood. What is your status? Do you need extraction? Brennan, negative. We are mobile and withdrawing. No extraction needed. Battalion, copy. Report to command post immediately upon return. Brennan acknowledged and continued moving. The patrol reached the American perimeter at 4:37 a.m., 3 minutes before dawn. Brennan reported to the battalion command post at 4:52 a.m. The battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Frank Shepard, was waiting. Shepard, Brennan, what happened out there? Your orders were to observe and avoid contact. Brennan, sir, we observed 3 Japanese columns, totaling 430 men, moving toward our perimeter. We also learned they were planning a dawn assault at 5:30 a.m., with artillery preparation at 5 a.m. Shepard, how did you learn the attack timing? Brennan, one of my Marines speaks Japanese. He overheard officers discussing the plan. Shepard, and then you engaged enemy forces despite explicit orders to avoid contact. Brennan, yes, sir. Shepard, explain. Brennan, sir, if we had withdrawn without engaging, we would have arrived here at 3:30 a.m. That would have given the battalion 90 minutes to prepare defenses before the Japanese artillery barrage. I assessed that was insufficient time. The Japanese assault would hit unprepared positions. Casualties would be high. Shepard, so you decided to violate orders and attack 200 Japanese soldiers with 12 Marines. Brennan, yes, sir. We ambushed the rear of their column, inflicted casualties, and withdrew. The attack disrupted their movement and delayed their timeline. They will not be ready to assault at 5:30 a.m. as planned. Shepard checked his watch. 4:54 a.m. It's 4:54 now. If the Japanese were planning artillery at 5 a.m., we should be getting hit right now. We're not. Your assessment appears correct. Shepard paused, then asked, how many Japanese casualties did you inflict? Brennan, unknown, sir. We engaged for 30 seconds, then withdrew. Estimate 20 to 40 killed or wounded based on the volume of fire and grenade effects. We also killed both officers at the rear of the column. Shepard, Japanese casualties, unknown. American casualties? Brennan, 2 wounded, minor. 1 grazing wound, 1 twisted ankle. Both returned to perimeter under their own power. Shepard considered this. Brennan's violation of orders had delayed the Japanese assault, possibly by several hours. The battalion now had time to prepare defenses. Artillery could be registered, machine guns repositioned, reserves alerted. The tactical situation was significantly improved because Brennan had attacked when ordered to withdraw. But Brennan had still violated orders. Shepard, Brennan, you disobeyed a direct order. Brennan, yes, sir, I accept responsibility. Shepard, if I report this, you'll face charges. Brennan, I understand, sir. Shepard stared at Brennan for 10 seconds. Then, you're not going to face charges. Your ambush delayed the Japanese and gave us time to prepare. That's good tactical judgment, even if it violated orders. Shepard turned to his operations officer. Pass the word. Japanese assault expected sometime after 7 o'clock a.m. Artillery, register defensive fires on likely approach routes. Infantry, improve positions and prepare for assault. We have time to get ready. Use it. At 5 a.m., no Japanese artillery barrage occurred. At 5:30 a.m., no Japanese assault. At 7:23 a.m., Japanese artillery began hitting the American perimeter. The barrage lasted 17 minutes. At 7:47 a.m., Japanese infantry attacked from 3 directions simultaneously. The attacks were coordinated but not synchronized. The Japanese columns had been disrupted by Brennan's ambush and subsequent delays. The assault that should have hit at 5:30 a.m. came at 7:47 a.m., more than 2 hours late. The Marines were ready. Artillery fire broke up Japanese formations before they reached American positions. Machine guns covered every approach. The Japanese assault was repulsed by 8:34 a.m. with heavy Japanese casualties. American casualties, 14 killed, 31 wounded. The battalion intelligence officer estimated that if the Japanese assault had come at 5:30 a.m. as originally planned, American casualties would have been 40 to 60 killed and 80 to 100 wounded. Brennan's ambush had delayed the assault by 2 hours, and reduced American casualties by approximately two-thirds. At 9:15 a.m., Brennan was summoned back to the battalion command post. Lieutenant Colonel Shepard wanted a full debrief on the patrol and ambush. Brennan provided detailed information: routes used, Japanese positions observed, ambush execution, withdrawal procedures. Shepard asked, "Why did you think attacking was the right decision?" Brennan, "Sir, we were outnumbered 17-1. Normal doctrine says avoid contact when outnumbered. But I calculated that avoiding contact would result in higher friendly casualties during the Japanese assault. Attacking changed the tactical calculus. We traded potential casualties in our patrol for reduced casualties across the battalion." Shepard, "You risked 12 Marines to save potentially 50 Marines in other units." Brennan, "Yes, sir. The math favored the attack." Shepard, "What if you had lost your entire patrol during the ambush?" Brennan, "Then 12 Marines would have died, but the Japanese assault would still have been delayed. The battalion would still have had time to prepare. The exchange would still favor our side." Shepard, "That's cold." Brennan, "Yes, sir. Combat is cold. You calculate probabilities and accept outcomes." Shepard, "Where did you learn to think like this?" Brennan, "Construction work, sir, before the war. You assess risks, calculate costs, make decisions that minimize losses. Building a house is not that different from fighting a war. Both require understanding how pieces fit together and what happens when pieces fail." Shepard smiled. "That's the strangest comparison I've heard, but I can't argue with the results." Dismissed Sergeant. Brennan returned to his unit. His patrol members were waiting. They had heard about the Japanese assault being repulsed and understood their ambush had contributed. Private First Class Tanaka asked, "Sarge, are we in trouble for violating orders?" Brennan, "No, the colonel said we made the right call." Another Marine, "Would you do it again?" Brennan, "Yes, every time. We were outnumbered, so we attacked first." That's how you survive when the odds are against you. The Marine Corps awarded Brennan the Silver Star for his actions on November 15, 1943. The citation read, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action against the enemy." Sergeant Brennan, leading a reconnaissance patrol deep in enemy territory, obtained critical intelligence regarding an impending enemy assault. Despite being vastly outnumbered, Sergeant Brennan made the decision to engage enemy forces to disrupt their attack preparations. His bold action delayed the enemy assault and allowed friendly forces time to prepare defenses, resulting in a successful defense and reduced friendly casualties. His courage and tactical judgment reflect the highest traditions of the Marine Corps. The citation did not mention that Brennan had violated orders. It simply stated he had engaged enemy forces and achieved positive results. Brennan continued serving with the 3rd Marine Division through the rest of the Bougainville campaign. He participated in combat operations on Guam in July 1944 and Iwo Jima in February 1945. On March 3, 1945, Brennan was killed in action on Iwo Jima. He was leading his platoon. He had been promoted to platoon sergeant in August 1944, in an assault on Japanese positions near Hill 362A. A Japanese machine gun opened fire from a concealed bunker. Brennan was hit multiple times and died instantly. He was 25 years old. The Marine Corps promoted Brennan posthumously to gunnery sergeant. His family received his Silver Star, Purple Heart, and a letter from Lieutenant Colonel Shepard describing Brennan's service and his actions on Bougainville. Shepard's letter included a passage that Brennan's family later shared with military historians. "Your son understood that combat requires making difficult decisions with incomplete information. On November 15, 1943, he faced a choice: follow orders and withdraw, or violate orders and attack. He chose to attack because he calculated that attacking would save lives even though it risked his own patrol. The Japanese assault was delayed, our defenses were prepared, and casualties were reduced. Your son was a Marine who understood that rules exist to guide decisions, not to replace thinking. He made the right decision even when it meant violating orders." Brennan's Silver Star was donated to the National Museum of the Marine Corps in Quantico, Virginia, after his mother died in 1968. The medal is displayed in the Pacific War Gallery, with a placard describing Brennan's service on Bougainville, Guam, and Iwo Jima. Most museum visitors read the placard briefly and move on. They see a silver star, standard decoration for Marines who fought in the Pacific. They do not see the decision Brennan made at 1:34 a.m. on November 15, 1943. They do not see him calculating 12 Marines versus 200 Japanese, orders to withdraw versus tactical necessity to attack, potential casualties in a patrol versus certain casualties in the battalion if the Japanese assault went as planned. They do not see Brennan choosing to attack when outnumbered 17-1 because the math said attacking would save lives. They see a medal in a museum. Brennan saw Marines who needed to be kept alive. The patrol's mission was reconnaissance. The orders said avoid contact. The tactical situation required disrupting the Japanese assault timeline. Brennan attacked. The assault was delayed. Marines lived who would have died. That was the equation. In 1993, the Marine Corps published a study on small unit actions in the Pacific. One chapter examined patrol operations and included a detailed analysis of Brennan's ambush on Bougainville. The study concluded, Sergeant Brennan's decision to engage a vastly superior enemy force violated his orders but was tactically sound. His ambush achieved 3 objectives. It inflicted casualties on enemy forces, it disrupted enemy timing, and it provided friendly forces with additional preparation time. The action demonstrates that rigid adherence to orders can sometimes be less effective than flexible decision-making based on immediate tactical conditions. Junior leaders must be trained to assess situations independently and make decisions that accomplish the mission, even when those decisions require violating specific orders. The study noted that Brennan's background in construction, risk assessment, problem-solving under pressure, independent decision-making had prepared him for combat leadership. The Marine Corps began emphasizing similar skills in its leadership training: analytical thinking, probability assessment, decision-making under uncertainty. Modern Marine Corps doctrine includes the concept of mission-type orders, giving subordinates clear objectives while allowing them flexibility in how to accomplish those objectives. Brennan demonstrated this principle on Bougainville in 1943, decades before it became formal doctrine. His mission was to gather intelligence and help the battalion prepare for enemy action. His orders said observe and withdraw. Brennan accomplished the mission by attacking. The orders were a method. The mission was the objective. Brennan focused on the objective. In 2018, the Marine Corps named a leadership award after Thomas Brennan. The Brennan Award is given annually to the Marine NCO who demonstrates exceptional tactical decision-making and initiative in combat operations. The award criteria specifically mention the ability to assess tactical situations independently, make decisions that accomplish the mission even when those decisions involve risk, and accept responsibility for the outcomes of those decisions. Recipients of the Brennan Award are Marines who, like Brennan, understood that sometimes being outnumbered means you attack first. Thomas Brennan's story is taught at Marine Corps leadership schools as an example of initiative and tactical flexibility. Instructors use the Bougainville ambush to illustrate several principles. First, mission accomplishment takes precedence over specific orders. Brennan's orders said withdraw. His mission was to help the battalion prepare for enemy action. He accomplished the mission by attacking. Second, tactical decisions require probability assessment. Brennan calculated that attacking had a higher probability of success than withdrawing. Third, leaders must accept responsibility for their decisions. Brennan knew he was violating orders. He accepted the potential consequences. When the decision proved correct, he did not claim credit. He simply explained his reasoning. Those principles remain relevant today. Modern combat is complex, unpredictable, and requires junior leaders to make independent decisions when communication with higher command is disrupted or when the tactical situation changes faster than orders can be updated. Brennan exemplified those qualities on November 15, 1943. He assessed the situation, calculated probabilities, made a decision, executed the attack, and accepted responsibility. His patrol of 12 Marines ambushed 200 Japanese soldiers, inflicted casualties, disrupted enemy timing, and gave friendly forces time to prepare defenses. The Japanese assault was delayed by 2 hours. American casualties were reduced by 2/3. One Marine patrol changed the outcome of a battalion-level engagement. Not by defending, by attacking. They were outnumbered 17 to 1, so they attacked first. If this story moved you the way it moved us, hit that like button right now. Every single like tells the algorithm to show this story to more people. People who need to know that Marines like Thomas Brennan existed. Men who calculated that being outnumbered meant attacking first, not running away. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. We are rescuing these stories from the archives. Stories about Marines who violated orders to accomplish missions and save lives. Real leaders, real battles, real courage. Drop a comment and tell us where you are watching from. United States, Japan, Australia, United Kingdom, Canada. Our community spans the entire world. You are not just a viewer. You are part of preserving these memories. Tell us your location. Tell us if someone in your family served in the Pacific. Let us know you are here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making sure Sergeant Thomas Brennan and his patrol are not forgotten. These Marines deserve to be remembered. You are making that happen.